Good morning, Composition 2. Here we are again, week 12, and not much time left in the semester remaining. I think there's a couple students who still were requesting emails from me, but I think 99% of you have gotten your second paper feedback. Speaking of feedback, we did the midterm CQI evaluation thing. I usually try to address some of the comments. Some of them aren't very helpful or constructive, so there's not much I can do. But some people's opinion are well expressed. So I want to say, first of all, our lecture, Zoom lectures are always on the correct day, on Tuesday and Thursday. And one student commented that the lectures don't keep a regular schedule. And I apologize for that. I have three excuses. One is that we had coronavirus cases in my neighborhood, so my kids were home for 2 weeks. That made things difficult that week. I was sick 1 week. I don't usually tell anybody. I just wasn't able to record in a timely fashion that week. And the third thing was the microphone breaking. So there was 3 weeks where the release of the lecture was delayed, and this week is it's Thursday. So perhaps the Tuesday composition classes might be a little bit annoyed that I'm releasing them on Thursday. But that's just the way things have worked out. Obviously, and there we go. Got another interruption there. Some of these things are just not going well this semester. That never happened, not even once last semester, but it's happened several times. So I'm just going to keep going in the interest of completing this lecture. So first of all, I apologize for the delay. The same thing goes for your assignments. If you have a good reason or a good excuse, then you hand in your paper a couple days late. I usually forgive you, but if there's no good excuse, then I judge you the same way you judge me. Secondly, another student commented that they wanted to learn more about essay writing. Now, I don't know. I've never heard that comment before. Usually my students say, please tone down the essay stuff. Like, I don't want to study how to write an essay the whole semester. And usually students are more interested in content and information and examples. And that's what we're doing this semester with this book. As I said, Composition 1 and Composition 3 are more focused on skill building and essay writing than this class, but this is supposed to be a little bit more interesting because we get to study content that National Geographic puts together. Anyway, today I'll take that request into consideration, and you have one more paper left, which is due the first week in December. And so I'll talk about how to approach this last paragraph and to improve your writing in preparation for that. So we are doing the nature chapter. We finished the first part of it. It was about lightning. Today is a really windy, blustery day, so I actually have my window open and the wind is blowing in, so I can experience the atmosphere of nature. So you might hear a little bit of wind or rustling or something as the leaves blow around, but that's natural. It's the background of today's lecture. So we talked about the lightning and stuff, and I introduced the topic for our final paper, and it was a very conscious choice to talk about conspiracy, because it seems these days with the internet and exchange this amount of information that's available to us at our fingertips all the time, that people are more likely than ever to try and connect the dots and figure out who's in control of our daily lives, right? Americans love conspiracies because they're interesting, but you have to, I think part of being an educated and critical thinker, you should be resistant to this kind of these kind of ideas, because they can send you down a path where everything seems like it's out of your control and somebody else is planning something that's going to negatively affect your life. And it's actually a symptom of schizophrenia that people start to, when they start to hallucinate and imagine things, that they get sucked into conspiracies and they lose touch with reality. So you might know the movie A Beautiful Mind, or you might not because you're younger than me. But there is this great movie about a mathematical genius. He's played by Russell Crowe, and he does slowly start to be taken over by these really strange ideas, and he ends up, putting his own shack together and connecting all the dots on the wall and looking at all these stories and connecting them with pictures and lines and string and push pins and stuff like that. It's a very good movie. It's Russell Crowe's a very talented actor. I don't know about his personality per se, but he does a very good job of portraying a real person in that movie. So I recommend you to watch it. Maybe that will help you, stir up some ideas of your own for your paper. So you're supposed to choose one of these ideas. What is a conspiracy exactly? I've sort of explained it a little bit already. I'm going to give you a couple examples so that, to get your, thoughts going on your own. One of the most famous conspiracy events in English history is Guy Fawkes Day, and this is going to cross over a little bit from our British and American culture class because we kind of skipped over it, but one student in that class, that was their chosen event in British history that affected British culture. And there's a celebration that goes on every November 5th. These days it's a smaller celebration than before, partially I think because Halloween is such a big international holiday. But Halloween is an Irish thing originally, and Guy Fawkes Day is an English thing. So they're kind of within the same week, October 31st and then November 5th. So the rhyme goes, remember, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot. So it was King James, who was the king at the time, and he was Protestant. So this is a religious conspiracy, a Catholic conspiracy. There was a group of important men who decided that the best thing to do was to explode a whole bunch of gunpowder underneath the Parliament building and get rid of the king and all of the Protestant ministers at the same time. They were able to just rent the room. So it was actually a real conspiracy. This is not a fake one. There was a conspiracy. These Catholic guys did gather all this gunpowder. They brought boats across the river and they put these barrels of gunpowder in there until, it was ready to be exploded. But as in politics and other places, rumors started to circulate that somebody was going to try and do something. So these government officials went down to the basement and check it out, and they found a man there waiting with a torch to explode this gunpowder. And they asked him who he was, and he said his name was Guy Fawkes. So in celebration of that discovery of the Catholic plot to kill the king and all the important people in the government, nothing like this has ever happened to my knowledge, that an entire ruling class of people, like no one has ever blown up the White House or any seat of government like that and killed everybody at the same time. It's never happened. So this was a great relief that the king was safe and Protestant England was protected from these crazy Catholic Englishmen, and they killed them all. They executed. They interrogated them, and then they found other people that were part of the plot, and then they were killed. So that's the main ingredient for conspiracy, is that a group of people have some sort of secret plan, and they don't inform the public of it, and through their power and their influence, they try to commit some kind of crime, like killing the king and exploding the Parliament building with all the members of the government in it. So that's a perfect example. somebody trying to carry out that. Now, what I'm looking for mostly is conspiracies that are not true, right? That people have been floating them because they believe some group or people is in control of something when they're really not, right? One of the conspiracy theories is based on climate change denial. You know, for a long time there was disagreement between scientists about whether there was an actual visible scientific effect of the Earth, you know, undergoing climate change because of human beings. And we used to call this, when I was young, we used to call it global warming, right? But as we have noticed over the last 50 years of studying the climate, it's not always a matter of just every year the Earth gets hotter. It's a trend over the last 50 years that our artificial production of gases and pollution, air pollution, has caused a general uptrend in temperature. But from year to year, you end up seeing sometimes the coldest winter, or in our case in Korea, the wettest summer, right? That was the summer that we experienced this year, was the wettest Korean summer on record. We had like 70 days of rain in the space of like 10 weeks. That's a crazy amount of rain. So these changes are called climate change now. We dropped the global warming label and now we call it climate change. Some people still deny it. Some of them are world leaders. Donald Trump is among them, who he doesn't believe that it's true, right? So some of the people who deny it, the climate change deniers, they believe that it's a conspiracy. Like the scientific community and certain leaders are telling this story about the Earth going through this negative change in order to serve their own agenda, right? So, for example, Bill Gates is one of the people that is supposed to be in on this conspiracy. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't even know how to explain how all of them work. But this is Greta Thunberg is this girl, and some people believe that she's controlled by Bill Gates and the Obamas and Al Gore and all these climate change activists who are older and have political influence, and they're just using her in order to advertise this climate change theory that's not true. I don't believe any of that. Greta seems pretty genuine to me. Whether or not all the things she's doing are not politically related, or only good for the scientific community and the Earth in general, I don't know. That's for you to decide. But she's definitely not a pawn of American political leaders who are telling her what to do and like sending her letters or emails or phoning her and say, okay, today, Greta, I want you to stand up in front of the EU and I want you to say this. Some people claim that, and I don't think she's a puppet. I think she's genuine and she's a smart young lady, and she feels passionately about trying to alter the course of our development so that our Earth doesn't get so damaged that we can't survive. But I have friends who are certain that we don't have any responsibility in the change in weather patterns over our lifetime. And I don't know how to talk to these people, because I just we all know, we can all see the evidence that every year there's more forest fires and every year there's bigger problems. So we need to address those things, not imagine that some really powerful people are just making a story for all of the sheep, or some people say sheeple, people that behave like sheep for us to listen to. So I do want you to consider the topic first. You have to look for a conspiracy theory that you would think is easy enough to write about in about one page, right? It doesn't need to be super long. So the first part of your paper, you have to kind of explain what the conspiracy is. And then the second part of it, you have to debunk it. You have to show how it's not true. Sort of the way I just did with the climate change thing. Identify who is supposed to be the major players, who's making the plan, and who's keeping the secrets from us, and then explain how that conspiracy theory doesn't make sense. Okay? That's kind of the point, because I want all of us to think carefully before we accept these ideas. I want you to think critically about them, and that's one of the major themes of this class. As you know, some of the homework is critical thinking questions. So think about it critically when you get the information, digest it, analyze it, and then respond to it. And that's what your paper should be like. So if you look on page 116, you're gonna do this pre-writing exercise. This is to help you get ready to do your paper itself. Sit down, do your pre-writing where it says, when and where did this conspiracy happen? What happened first, then what happened after that, and then what happened at the end. If there is a timeline involved in the conspiracy, like Guy Fawkes Day, or climate change is ongoing, then explain, how it started and how it continued and how it's ongoing. And if there's an end, talk about how it's finished. Like there's some conspiracy theories still about 9/11 and how the American government was connected to Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda destroying the World Trade Center with airplanes. That's a conspiracy theory. Coronavirus, you've probably heard some of these things, maybe not as much as me, but if you watch the American news, some people are claiming that China made the virus, and I'm not sure exactly about these things, but I'm very skeptical that China used the coronavirus as a bioweapon. If they did, it was very, very poor planning. Like, it's an open conspiracy because everybody saw it develop. And there's all kinds of stories. Some people say it's the virus is from a pangolin, which is a strange animal, or that it was from the wet market in Wuhan. There's various stories. But anyway, one of them is that the Chinese government created this designer virus and then unleashed it on the world when the world wasn't ready, but China was. They could have been working on viruses, but I don't think they released it on purpose in their own country and then it spread around the world. That would be a pretty stupid way to use bioweapon. But anyway, you choose which conspiracy you want to debunk and then describe it as if you were describing a story. But the more important part is to analyze it, like I said, and punch holes in the story that show that it's not realistic. So at the bottom there's a paragraph outline, right? And it's, even though you're not telling a story about yourself, this is the same kind of format that you will use to describe a conspiracy. And then on the next page, once you've got that rough outline, that's how you should approach your paragraph. You've got this point, this point, this point, this point. Now you can fill it in, and you can write it. So there's 2 checklists on the next page, and as I said, some of you, everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but some of you, it's sentence structure. That's the thing that you need to work on the most. And so the editing checklist on the next page is a good one to follow. Is there a subject in every sentence? Is there a verb in every sentence? Is it the right tense? Words in the correct order, sentences. So this is what you need to go through. Once you finish the paper, look at it again and go through it and try and fix some of the mistakes yourself. And you'll end up with a higher grade, naturally. So you got the paragraph checklist about the format of the paragraph. I've told many of you about that too. Don't make a lot of short paragraphs. So take a look at the paragraph checklist and the editing checklist and make sure you've done all these things. And then at the bottom of page 117, you're ready to print your final copy, or as the case may be, save it and email it to me. Okay? So hopefully what we've talked about today helps you with your approach to the paragraph. And next week we'll go back to finishing the textbook and the chapter on nature. But for this week, focus on preparation for your paragraph and consider what conspiracy you would like to write about. And if you want to ask me any more questions, just send me an email and I'll do my best to get back to you quickly. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.